Let's turn now to the situation in the Middle East, where Iran this morning has vowed to deliver a powerful and immediate response to any threat against its people or its leadership. These new comments come as Reuters report U.S. and Iranian officials have resumed indirect negotiations in Doha. Speaking this morning, President Trump struck an optimistic tone about the state of those negotiations.
As far as things are going, the denuclearization of Iran is moving along well. They've had very good meetings, and we'll see. We hit them very hard for 3 nights, as you know, but we're getting along very well.
For more on this, we're joined by Eric Loeb. He's an associate professor of politics and international relations at Florida International University. Some of the reporting that is out there, Eric, suggests that the president has become bored with what is happening in the Middle East, specifically as it relates to this war of choice that he started. It's interesting. The president is going about the regular business of being president while we're still stuck in and mired in, some might say, in this war. Now you've got the Iranians making threats to the United States. It's hard for people to understand how these negotiations can be happening. Oh, and by the way, they are indirect while the Iranians are making threats to the U.S. And let's be fair, the president is also making threats.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. We are seeing these negotiations around this MOU that was signed 2 weeks ago electronically between Iran and the United States being in a very fragile state. There were meetings early last week in Switzerland between J.D. Vance and some Iranian representatives that were supposed to be followed up with meetings in Doha in Qatar yesterday and today. And there were even questions whether the Iranian delegation would even show. And in between that time, we've had tit-for-tat exchanges, as President Trump mentioned, between the Iranians and the United States. Really, the key issue is that Iran is engaging in military operations, continues to do so, to try to maintain control over the Strait of Hormuz, a position it did not find itself in before this war. So it's sending a signal there. And there's also a lot of contention and fragility around this ceasefire in Lebanon between Israel and Hezbollah that is also complicating these negotiations as well.
Eric, what do you make of the warnings from Iran's foreign minister to respond to threats against its people and leadership? And then what about the timing? Because Iran is preparing to have a funeral for the former supreme leader.
Well, that's absolutely right. And for a while now, the Iranians the Iranian political elites have been talking about holding a state or national funeral for the late supreme leader who was assassinated by Israel and the United States on the first day of this war, February 28th. And that's expected to happen in the coming days, potentially. And this could pose a security risk, particularly if we see a large number of Iranian political and military leaders and officials that are congregating at that ceremony. And I think they're doing this to send a strong message to the United States and Israel to allow this ceremony to happen, which is important for Iran politically and symbolically, and to see if, just like in Lebanon, if the United States is willing and able to pressure Israel to stand down as the Iranians plan to hold this ceremony.
So let's talk about the Israeli response to all this. The Israel defense minister said today that his country's forces would not withdraw from security zones in Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza. How much of a factor are Israel's actions in the talks that are happening in Doha with Iran?
Well, this is a statement that Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, and others have been making since the beginning that this MOU was signed 2 weeks ago, that Israel's not party to this MOU. It would maintain its what it refers to as security buffer zones in Gaza and Lebanon and Syria, that it would have freedom of action to continue to wage military operations in Lebanon and elsewhere. And this really puts the MOU at risk and in a very fragile and precarious situation, because if you read the 14-point MOU, the very first point is that the cessation of hostilities does not just apply between Iran and the United States, but also between Israel and Hezbollah, even if it does not mention them by name, in Lebanon. So Israel could certainly continue to play a spoiler as Iran and the United States try to negotiate a more permanent, sustainable deal around this MOU.
All right, Eric Loeb, always great to have your perspective and analysis. Thank you.